Alright, hey guys, and welcome to today's video. Now in today's video, I'm going to be reacting to the worst aquariums I was able to find. And trust me, they're pretty bad. So I went ahead and just kind of looked around, similar to what I did in my other videos, and found the worst aquariums I could find. And honestly, let's just cut to the chase and let's just get right into this with the first picture. Okay, so as you can see, this is what we are dealing with. This is a 5-gallon top fin aquarium. There is a little heater in the back of the aquarium. A large rock structure taking up the middle half of the tank, or the middle portion I should say, and what looks like to be an Amazon sword plant in the front right corner. And then we have a huge angelfish in that tank. Now angelfish get big, they should really not be in tanks smaller than 15 to 20 gallons. When they're full grown, they probably need like 20-29 gallons, but juvenile ones can be usually in around a 15-gallon. Now, a 5-gallon is absolutely too small. That is incredibly small for this fish. It's huge. It looks almost full grown. It looks almost to be a veil tail, which is where their tails are a little bit more flowy, which is what it looks like this fish is. So definitely a bigger tank is in need. The tank water looks a little bit hazy, not too bad, but definitely that fish needs a bigger tank. Classic case of too big of a fish and too small of a tank. It's way too common, unfortunately. Next up is a let go listing for a saltwater aquarium. Now at first glance it doesn't look like a saltwater aquarium because it's missing literally everything a saltwater aquarium should have, which generally is a sump. You don't need a sump, but it's super beneficial. Correct lighting for a reef tank. This is a fish only tank, so it really doesn't matter, but for corals you do need specific lighting, as well as stuff like live rock and, you know, just general stuff. You don't need live rock, it's just generally recommended. But the main issue here is, once again, too big a fish in too small of a tank. This is a 55-gallon aquarium. Looks like it has a hang-on back filter. I can't be 100% sure, but that's what it looks like because I don't see any intake tubes for a canister filter. The heater looks like a TETRAS 50-watt heater. That's like for a 10-gallon aquarium. The heater is so tiny and so underpowered, there's no way that tiny heater is doing anything good for this aquarium. So we don't have heating basically since the heater is so tiny. As for stocking, we have 2 lionfish. Lionfish get huge. These lionfish literally need like a 100-gallon tank. 2 of them generally not recommended to keep 2 together in such a small aquarium for obvious reasons. It definitely can be done in larger aquariums, just small aquariums, it's a big no. We have fake decor, you know, the classic SpongeBob junk that saltwater, believe it or not, can actually sometimes erode the paint off of it quicker than freshwater, and that paint can kind of leach into the aquarium. That's what those fake decorations aren't always recommended in saltwater. In certain instances it's totally fine, but a lot of the fake structures, sometimes that paint can actually leach off. It also looks like we have an Ocellaris clownfish, a Calarchy clownfish, a Scopus tang, and what looks like a bicolor angel. Now all these fish are good enough for this size tank. The tang will get a little bit too big, and then the angel might get a little bit big as well. The 2 lionfish are obviously way too huge for this tank, but the clownfish should be fine in here. Obviously, assuming it had the correct equipment to begin with, which it doesn't. So it looks like they're selling this for $150, which is a little bit overpriced, honestly. For what you're getting, it actually is pretty overpriced. It's really a 55-gallon tank. It's a freshwater setup that someone threw saltwater in and threw saltwater fish in that are way too big for the aquarium. But yeah, definitely maybe for $100 it'd be a good deal if you could drill it and put like a sump on it. It would kind of be worth it in that aspect. Next up is another aquarium with big fish that shouldn't be in it. So this looks like, I'm just gonna estimate, this looks like a 100-gallon aquarium. It looks big, it looks tall, it looks like a 120-gallon aquarium, maybe even a 150-gallon aquarium. It's big. There's a canister filter on it, which is great. No hood, no light, just kind of makes it look dirty and dingy. As well as no real decorations, it's just gravel. 2 large koi fish. Those should be in a koi pond. Those definitely need to be removed from this tank. The goldfish in here should be fine. This is a big enough tank for goldfish. Maybe not that huge amount of goldfish, but definitely goldfish will be totally fine in this aquarium. What I'm more worried about is the stand. This aquarium looks like it's about to come crashing down any moment. That stand looks like it's 50 years old and it's going to break any second. I would not trust an aquarium on a stand looking like that. That is a recipe for disaster, and the massive koi fish honestly just add to it. This tank needs an overhaul. This tank needs to be replaced. It's probably old and the fish need a bigger home. Now this next picture looks like a hoarding situation for betta fish. Now there is approximately, we're just gonna go with 50 vases. 50 jars, vases, nothing bigger than a gallon on this shelf. And each one of them has a little bit of bamboo in it and a betta fish. Okay, betta fish need 2.5-gallon tanks, heated and filtered. You can't just take a jar, put water in it, and put a betta fish in it. That's not really how this works. This is literally a hoarding situation with 50 betta fish on this tiny shelf. This person is a betta fish hoarder. They don't know what they're doing, or maybe they do know what they're doing, they just want to hoard betta fish in this small little jars. I don't know. But yeah, horrible tanks. These shouldn't even be called tanks. Horrible vases. These are flower vases, and I don't know what people were thinking when they put a fish in it. Next up is 2 fish tanks for sale on another Craigslist-esque site for $120. Now, the tanks themselves look fine, except they're a little overstocked and a little bit messy. Got a lot of clutter going on, and there is tons of fish in these tanks. Now, those could either be goldfish, and if they're goldfish, this tank is way overstocked, and bad things are about to happen. But if these are platies, which I think they're platies or some sort of swordtails, what likely happened is they ended up breeding in the small aquarium and overpopulated that. And then what the owner did was probably move all the baby fish to another tank where they just ended up growing up, and now they have like 100 platies, which they don't know what to do with because they overpopulate. Either way, 120 bucks is a little bit steep for this system. I would never pay that much money just for that tank. I mean, it's just a tank in a cheap like Walmart stand. It's really nothing special. Stuff looks a little bit dirty, as I mentioned, and really the problem is how many fish are in the tank. If you took half of the fish out of each tank, it would probably be a thriving system. Next up is a video of, once again, a small tank with huge fish in it. This is so common. These look to be goldfish or koi, and they are so fat and so huge and need to be literally in a pond. This tank is way too small for them. There is a small filter, which is good. That's probably honestly what's keeping them alive. But the tank is just way too small for these fish. And these fish are massive. There's so many of them in such a small tank. This was a bad idea to begin with. And once again, these fish need to be in a pond. I've said that 1,000 times. Next up is a sad excuse for a dentist's office aquarium. Now this looks like a small 15-gallon aquarium that's only filled up halfway. There is a small filter in it, which is good. I don't see a heater, but there could be one in there. The water level is, once again, only filled up halfway. If you have an aquarium, why would you just not fill it up all the way? It's not that difficult. But it looks like there is a long fin parrot cichlid in there. This might not be a parrot cichlid. That's just what I kind of think it looks like. I'm not 100% sure though. And I don't even think parrot cichlids come in long fin varieties, but it looks like a parrot cichlid, so I'm gonna call it a parrot cichlid. And those fish generally need around 55 gallons or larger as they grow, because they do get pretty big. So not only is this tank undersized, has green water, and looks disgusting, it's clearly neglected because of how low the water level is. It's not that hard to take care of a fish tank. Literally just clean it and put fresh water in. It's not that hard. Next up, we have a 220-gallon saltwater aquarium. Now this one isn't really a horrible aquarium. It started off as a horrible aquarium, but it looks like it made a shift. So at the top, we see this 220-gallon tank, saltwater, covered in algae, looks absolutely nasty, in need of a deep clean. And then the second picture, we see a thriving saltwater aquarium, a little bit cloudy, which is to be expected, but the glass panels look super clean. It looks like we have a lot of nice fish in there, some blue tangs, a fox face, a cardinal fish, what looks like maybe a naso tang, and some blennies. And maybe also some anthias, but it looks like this tank definitely took a turn for the better. It does have a sump filter, so that's super nice. It's probably what's honestly keeping the water quality good enough for those fish. So I'm assuming there's a large sump down below. But overall, the tank looks 1,000 times better than it did, and this is definitely no longer a horrible aquarium. It still needs a little bit of improvement, but it's not as bad as it was. Last but not least, this was posted in a betta fish keepers Facebook group. So a Facebook group designed to teach people how to keep betta fish. We see a betta fish in a small aquarium covered in Orbeez. Now, you know what Orbeez are, the small little balls, you throw them in water and then they like expand to like the squishy balls. Someone put those in a fish tank and called it a fish ball pit. People really are just so dumb. Oh my god. So I have no idea what this person was thinking, putting Orbeez in a fish tank. I guess they're fish safe because the fish didn't die, but don't do this. Like, do not do this. There's no point to do this. Fish do not want to play in ball pits. That's not what they were designed for. Do not put Orbeez in fish tanks. How do people not already know that? Anyway, right next to the Orbeez fish tank, we see a tiny little jar filled up halfway with aquarium gravel. That better not be another betta fish tank coming. Once again, betta fish can't live in vases, so when I see a vase with halfway full of aquarium gravel, I get a little suspicious. Let's hope, because there's no water in it, they're not going to be putting a betta fish in it, but you never know with these people, honestly. But that is going to be pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any worst aquarium pictures, videos, anything like that you want to send me, go ahead and send them to chewysbroaquatics@gmail.com. All one word, no spaces, and I'll go ahead and maybe include them in the next reaction video. But once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Shout out to Expert and Goodbye. Anyway, now that our really nice ducks are out here, just always kind, always super nice, we can go ahead and start cleaning the pond. Oh my god, he won't leave me alone. He literally won't leave me alone. Okay. I'm currently being attacked by a duck. Moving on.